she said. Let's just be friends, my ex needs me more. I quietly slipped the car key I had. Those words hit me harder than I expected. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask why. I just stood there, trying to process the calm cruelty hidden behind her gentle tone. It's strange how someone can look you straight in the eye and break your heart with a softness that feels almost kind. That's what made it worse. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't even emotional. She was simply done. And that calmness told me everything I needed to know. She had already made her decision long before this conversation ever began. It's funny how your world can end in the middle of an ordinary day. The sun was shining. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and coffee beans. A song I liked was playing faintly in the background. Everything felt normal, except for the fact that my heart was quietly being dismantled one word at a time. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize anything. She just said it like it was some logical choice. Like she was picking between two paths and mine just didn't lead where she wanted to go. When she said, "Let's just be friends," I heard the door slam inside my chest, even though she was smiling softly, as if to make it easier for me. And then came the second part, "My ex needs me more." That line kept echoing in my head, twisting itself into every corner of my thoughts. Her ex, the same man who left her crying on the kitchen floor 2 years ago. The same man she swore she'd never forgive. The same man she said she had finally gotten over. It didn't make sense. How could she go back to the one who broke her, when I was the one who tried to heal her? But heartbreak doesn't follow logic. It follows the heart. And sometimes the heart is addicted to pain it recognizes. I wanted to ask her if she really believed he had changed. If she honestly thought the man who shattered her could somehow become her safe place. But I didn't ask. I just watched her, quietly. Like someone watching a movie they already know the ending of but still can't look away from. She looked beautiful that day, too beautiful. Maybe. Her hair was tied up the way she used to when she was nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she stirred her coffee. Her eyes darted away when they met mine. She was scared, but not of losing me. She was scared of admitting that she still belonged to someone who didn't deserve her. When I finally spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. It was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that comes from exhaustion rather than peace. I said, "If that's what you need, I understand." She looked relieved, almost grateful, and that hurt more than anything else. She was thankful that I didn't make her feel guilty for breaking me. The car ride back to her place was silent, the kind of silence that hums so loudly it fills the space with everything you're not saying. The streets passed by in a blur. The world outside the window kept moving, but inside that car, time had stopped. I could feel the weight of her words pressing against the steering wheel, the air between us thick with things that would never be said again. When we reached her apartment, she unbuckled her seatbelt slowly, like she was buying herself one more minute of pretending this wasn't goodbye. She said softly, "You're a great guy. I hope you know that." I smiled, not because I felt great, but because I didn't want her to remember me as bitter. Then she handed me my hoodie, the one she'd borrowed last week. I took it, and my fingers brushed hers for a split second. It felt like touching a ghost, familiar, but no longer mine. And then I remembered the car key, the spare one she'd given me when we first started seeing each other. I had kept it on my keychain ever since, not just because it opened her car, but because it felt like a small symbol of belonging. Now, it just felt heavy, useless. I slipped it quietly onto the console between us. She didn't notice. She was too busy avoiding my eyes. I didn't say a word. I just got out, shut the door softly, and walked away. The sound of the door closing was final. It wasn't just the sound of a car, it was the sound of a chapter ending. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I walked down the street without a destination, feeling both weightless and crushed at the same time. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, but I didn't check it. I didn't want to see her name. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That night, I sat in my room staring at the ceiling, my mind running through every memory we'd made. The night drives, the long talks about everything and nothing, the way she'd fall asleep on my shoulder during movies, the time she told me she felt safe for the first time in years. All of it felt like a lie now. Not because she meant to deceive me, but because she changed her mind, and that made every promise suddenly feel meaningless. I scrolled through our pictures, each one stabbing a little deeper. There she was, smiling next to me, laughing in the sunlight, holding my hand at the park. But the more I looked, the more I realized something. She had always been a little distant, even in the happiest photos. There was a flicker in her eyes, a shadow of someone else still living there. It wasn't me she was missing in those moments, it was him. You can't compete with a ghost. You can't fight memories. I tried to love her enough to make her forget him. But you can't heal someone who secretly hopes the person who broke them will return. Days passed in slow motion after that. Every morning felt heavier. I'd wake up reaching for my phone, half hoping there'd be a text from her saying she made a mistake. But it never came. Instead, I'd open social media and see her posting pictures again, her smile wide, her eyes bright, and next to her, him, the same ex she said she would never talk to again. They looked happy. Or maybe they just looked good at pretending. Either way, it tore something inside me. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It was grief. Grief for something that had died quietly while I was still trying to save it. Grief for the version of her who used to call me late at night, saying she didn't know what she'd do without me. People always say time heals everything, but they never tell you what to do while you're waiting for that healing to start. For me, it was silence. I stopped texting her. I stopped checking her updates. I started focusing on things I'd ignored while trying to keep her. I went on runs. I read books I'd abandoned. I reconnected with friends I'd pushed away. But no matter how busy I kept myself, there were moments, quiet, random moments, when she'd flash in my mind. The smell of her perfume, the sound of her laugh, the way she'd rest her head on my arm during long drives. And then came the realization I'd been avoiding. I wasn't angry at her anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just tired. Tired of carrying the weight of something I didn't break. Tired of wondering why I wasn't enough. Tired of replaying the moment she said her ex needed her more. Because maybe she was right. Maybe he did need her more, but I needed my peace more. The truth is, sometimes love isn't about who deserves who. It's about timing, healing, and the ghosts we haven't buried. She hadn't buried hers, and I had to stop waiting for someone who was still haunted by someone else. Months went by, and slowly, life started to make sense again. I met new people. I laughed without feeling guilty. I found comfort in the quiet instead of fearing it. I started to remember who I was before I made her my world. I learned that love shouldn't feel like waiting for someone to choose you. It should feel like being chosen every single day. Then one evening, my phone lit up with her name. After all those months, after all that silence, she texted, "Hey, how have you been?" Just 4 words. But they carried the weight of everything unspoken. I stared at it for a long time. I could almost hear her voice, imagine her smile, feel that familiar pull in my chest. But this time, I didn't answer. Not out of pride, not out of spite, but because I had finally found the strength to let go. She had driven back into her past, and I had quietly walked into my future. That car key I slipped that day wasn't just metal and memory, it was the last thread connecting me to someone who had already left me emotionally long before she said it out loud. Letting it go was my way of reclaiming myself. Now, when I think about her, it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels distant, like a story that happened to someone I used to be. I don't hate her for leaving. In a strange way, I'm grateful, because her leaving taught me what real love isn't. It's not convincing someone to stay. It's not competing with their past. It's knowing when to step back, when to close the door, when to quietly return the key and walk away with dignity. She said, "Let's just be friends, my ex needs me more." That sentence used to crush me. Now, it reminds me of how far I've come, because I finally understand, love doesn't always end with closure or explanation. Sometimes, it ends with a quiet goodbye and a key left behind, an ending that doesn't need to be loud to be final. And maybe, somewhere deep down, that's the beauty of it. The pain, the silence, the loss, it all becomes part of who you are. It shapes you. It strengthens you. It reminds you that you can survive even the softest heartbreaks, the ones that don't scream but whisper their way out of your life. And that's exactly what she did. She whispered her goodbye. And I quietly slipped the key, finally unlocking my freedom.